Hello and welcome to another episode of the Maxi-Geek Show. Today is Friday, August 19th, and today is this is episode number 31. It's been a bit of a busy week. A lot of things picking up with people coming back from their breaks in the Northern Hemisphere. Release dates are getting ever closer on a number of things. Been a few delays, of course, as you know we're always sort of experiencing these days with the flow on of COVID still. But we're pushing forward across the board on most things. We're going to get stuck into it today. It's going to be a bit of a shorter show, so we won't have a lot to talk about, but we'll get into the news that we do have. And the first thing we're going to start off with is NBA. Specifically, we're going to be talking about NBA 2K23 for those people who are playing it on PC, PS5, or Xbox Series X or S. And that is that they're bringing together to the game a new mode called Era. And what this mode will do is it'll let you pick up careers of players from the history of the NBA at pivotal moments in that career. And then from there, you'll be able to jump forward into the, and then sort of, not rediscover, but choose sort of what's the best option for your career. That didn't make a lot of sense. Basically, what you can do with the mode is you can pick up... So there's this particular sequence here. So they say the Magic versus the Bird era. So starting in 1983, players will find themselves in the heat of the Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird rivalry that took over the leagues. Fans can rewrite the 1980s NBA history while they compete to the draft. The likes of Michael Jordan, Akeem Olajuwon, and any other NBA legends who were drafted in that legendary decade. So what this does is it's essentially a preset starting point. So the courts will look like they used to back then. The on-screen displays will look like the broadcasts, and then you'll basically get to play out that scenario. Like, will you be victorious if you're playing as Michael Jordan in the championship game, or will your lack of skill in the game cause the team who lost to win this time? And how will that play out, sort of thing. There is a video here that does go into it. I will not play it because it's a pretty lengthy discussion video, but I think it's kind of cool. Obviously, with the Jordan challenges, which is in all versions of the game, and this one, which is next gen only, they are doing a lot more than just re-releasing the same NBA experience year after year. So they've done stuff for, like, the shot stick is different and a few other bits and pieces, but they're doing more to sort of provide other challenges, if you will. So it's nice to see that they're doing more across the board. Moving on to a little bit of Switch news, as being reported by Vooks, Hori are redesigning their Split Pad Pro. So the Split Pad Pro is a series of Switch grips that go on either side of the console. They do not work wirelessly. There's no wireless tech inside them. There's no rumble. There's no NFC. There's no IR camera. But basically, they are just larger controllers. What it allows for is people who have bigger hands to just enjoy, being able to, hold the Switch in their hands without sort of any sort of issues. We can see down here on the right here, there is the current model that's available now here in Australia in a range of colours, and then there's to the left is the newer sort of style. They've lopped off the bottom. They've made it more rounded. It's sort of very much in the Joy-Con shape. The only real difference is, it's not as bulbous, if you will. But yeah, so if we go here, so this is what they call Midnight Blue, and yeah, so it's essentially just a slightly wider Joy-Con. On the back of it, there is a trigger button, button on each side on each of the split pad controllers that you can assign another button to. It has turbo functions and all that sort of stuff, so it has a few extra bits and pieces, and they are fully licensed, but it's just one of those things where it comes down to preference. I have a set of the split pad pros for my Switch. I also use the regular things, and I use the Pro controller, so I bounce around here and there. The only problem with the split pad is it's not travel friendly. It doesn't fit in any of the standard cases, and you know, even if you had a case that would do it, it would have to be quite a bit bigger because they are quite chunky. So these are still quite a bit chunky, but they are, you know, more slimlined, you know, across the board, which is something that's very, very cool. With QuakeCon kicking off today, we actually got some details on the Fallout 76 upcoming expedition, The Pit. So The Pit is the first expedition for Fallout 76 where players will leave Appalachia for the first time. Everything that's been happening in the game since the game launched has taken place within that one region. The Pit is a standalone location, so it's not connected directly. So you'll take a VTOL and you'll fly there for it. Now, the Pit is obviously you know, a familiar location to Fallout 3 players. It was one of the DLC locations for that game. Whereas now, this is set many years before anything that happens there. So, you know, this is a few decades after the war. You know, Pittsburgh, or the Pit, has, you know, not recovered yet. So this is the city that you're going to visit. There are two sides. There's the, you know, the steel workers, and then there's the raiders who, you know, want to control everything. They want the power. So yeah, the big thing with this is that all the missions that are sort of in here are all repeatable missions. So you can jump in at any point and replay missions here, you know, as many times as you'd like. What I appreciate for it, though, is that, you know, the missions are designed that you can do them completely solo or team up with friends. The other thing, too, though, is that if you don't have friends that play Fallout 76 but you want to play with people, the game will actually matchmake for you as well, letting you bring people in. There is a whole range of new, you know, loot and items to get. There's a new currency called stamps that you'll earn playing through this expedition. And of course, the best news is it's free. It's completely free. There's no cost for this one. It does launch on September 13th, so it's still just a couple of weeks away. But what they're offering is what they call the recruitment bundle. So if you already own Fallout 76, let's say you bought it day one, you've been playing it, you're enjoying it, you can opt to buy the recruitment bundle. That gets you a few, you know, extra goodies for your camp, and you know, it's just an option that you can buy. You don't have to; it's not mandatory. You don't need to buy it to get in, but it's there. If, however, you have not bought Fallout 76 and you want to buy into the game, the recruitment bundle will be included as part of the deluxe edition of the game, which will come branded with the Pit, you know, iconography like we're seeing here on the screen. What this is doing is it's going to let you enjoy everything, all the updates that Fallout 76 has had, and the new content, you know, on the one disc. So there's no cost difference between buying Fallout 76 today or Fallout 76 The Pit when that releases. It's still free content. They're just sort of bundling it in, giving it a new label. There's nothing, you know, different about it other than that. You know, I do have some comments in here from some of the developers about sort of what's going on. I'll put that in the chat. But yeah, there's, you know, just a lot of, you know, rusted steel, a lot of brown. But yeah, so again, if anyone's played through Fallout 3's, you know, expansion, The Pit, it's the same locations, the same, not the same scenarios or anything, but it's the same feeling and all that sort of stuff. So it should be very, very cool to see that all done. Moving on, we're going to talk about some showcases. So there's 5 showcases that have been announced, or, you know, we know a few extra details about. And some of them are happening very, very soon. Some of them are happening, you know, sort of mid next month. But we'll get into them here now. The first one we're going to talk about is Disney. Disney are hosting a game showcase. It is specifically called the Disney and Marvel Games Showcase. That is the full name for it. So Disney Marvel Games Showcase. So it is happening on September 10th at 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in Western Australia, that's 4 a.m. If you're in Sydney or Brisbane, that'll be 6 a.m. What we do know is that Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Lucasfilm, and 20th Century Games will be in attendance in some form. The only 3 games they've confirmed are Disney's Dreamlight Valley, which is the Sims cross Animal Crossing sort of type game, Marvel's Midnight Suns, which unfortunately just got delayed till who knows when, and there'll be an update for LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. They're the 3 games we know about. We do know that the new game from Skydance New Media, which is being led by Amy Hennig, who created Uncharted, that's a Marvel game and that will be shown off, but we don't know any details about that. In the video that is here, we can see, there's Marvel, there's Lego. This one here is the Mirrorverse, the mobile game. There's Dreamlight Valley. That's the one with Baby Groot there. That was Snap. That's the card game. The Aliens one is... I wrote it down below here. Aliens Dark Descent. That's that sort of squad-based shooter. This is Disney Speedstorm. It's the racing game. That's Midnight Suns. So we knew there's some stuff in there from that we should see. But we could get a look at the the Star Wars game from EA and Respawn, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. Or it could be where we get our first look at the Indiana Jones game that Bethesda have been working on for a number of years. We don't know if there's being shown, but it is entirely possible. I'm very, very excited for this, purely because this is their first time they're doing a dedicated games thing. Even when Disney Interactive existed as a studio and they were making Disney Infinity and a few other things, they never did anything like this. They never hosted a press conference at E3 or any other trade show. They always just sort of put their stuff in other people's baskets. So the only thing to sort of be, with this one is they're still not making the games, they're just licensing now. We could see more things announced. We could see just exactly what we've been told is going to be there. It is expected to go for an hour, so it should be a fully packed hour, and it'll be available to be watched online, on the regular things. That's happening during what they call D23, which is their fan club expo. They'll do a whole bunch of movie stuff there as well, and all that sort of stuff. But we'll have to wait and see on the rest of it. Also confirmed during this week is the Future Game Show for Gamescom. So this was announced a few weeks ago as it was coming, but they didn't have an exact time back then. They now have a time and hosts for this upcoming showcase. Specifically, the showcase will take place, as always, at a horrible time for us, at 4 a.m. Sydney time, 2 a.m. Perth time on the 25th of August. So next week is when it'll be kicking off. And like the one back in June for the Not E3 showcase was hosted by Doug Cockle and Denise Goh, who were the voice of Geralt and Yennefer from the Witcher series. We also had Troy Baker and Lucy Bailey do one, and the very first one was Nolan North and Emily Rose from Uncharted. The host for this one are Christopher Judge and Danielle Bussetti, who play Kratos and Freya in God of War. We don't know, what games are going to be in there. Some people have started teasing, we might have something in the showcase. Who knows if that'll be true or not. What we do know is that they're saying 50 games will be in the showcase. Here's the links in the story as well. The only problem that I have with this showcase is they do it every time. They're like, oh, there's going to be 50 games. They always throw in like 2 or 3 montages where it's like 2 minutes and they throw like 7 games in there. Which, a montage is fine, but, don't bolster your lineup by saying you're going to have 50 games if, 15 of them are shoved within 6 minutes of screen time. It's a bit of a misleading statement to say there's 50 games showing. What is something that's very, very cool is they've done it in the past few. Very likely they'll do it in this one. Is they have what they call the virtual show floor, where they generally throw up a lot of Steam codes for, chance for people to get access to a game or two. It's a first come, first serve thing. There's no one code per viewer. They'll throw up 2 or 3 times in that showcase area a bunch of codes. You've just got to get it, type it in, redeem it, and the first one, you get it. If you do it and it's already gone, then, you miss out. They're not going to give you another one later on. So, yeah, that is, another thing that they do, which I think is kind of cool. I wish it wasn't just so random, but, it is what it is, I suppose. Also next week, we have word that Destiny 2 will be having a showcase as well. specifically on the 24th. So this is another early one. This will be 2 a.m. Sydney time, or midnight if you're over in Perth. This will be a showcase dedicated to the future of Destiny 2. Bungie were quick to point out that the pre-show begins at 8 a.m. Los Angeles time, which is 1 a.m. for us, but the main show begins at 2 a.m. for us, so 9 a.m. in Los Angeles. It is honestly a horrible time. I really do not understand why they're insistent on doing them at 9 in the morning Los Angeles time. I understand they're based on that side of the country in the US, but I'm at the point now where these things need to be done at a time that suits sort of everyone, not just the US and Europe. That being said, they'll be doing a lot more hyping for it. Specifically, this is all about Lightfall, which is the expansion they announced a few years ago. How long it runs for, they've not said, just that it'll start at 2 a.m. If you are keen on watching it, you can watch it live on their Twitch channel. But other than that, we don't really know any of the details for it. I'll be honest, I'm not a Destiny player. The first game was interesting. To me, it was a good experiment. Destiny 2, I loaded into it, and I'm just like, oh, it's the exact same thing. Cool. I am not a big multiplayer game player where I have to be constantly playing it to, get the full experience. My time is finite, so I have to pick and choose what games I, dedicate time to for that. So Destiny has never been one for me, but I know a few people that do really enjoy it. Moving on to a little more closer to home, we actually have some details about Ubisoft Forward. Thanks for stopping by, Cody. Appreciate it. So Ubisoft Forward is that's the Nintendo Direct, but for Ubisoft. They haven't hosted one in about a year. They did host one last year during sort of the E3 period, which was very cool, but it wasn't really that packed with anything. Since then, they've been pretty quiet, apart from some esports updates here and there. But next month, they will be hosting their showcase on Sunday, September 11th. But if you're in Melbourne, you can actually register to go to Fortress and watch it live with some of the Ubisoft team, a bunch of other fans, and maybe take home a prize or two. It is again 4 a.m. in the morning, and it is at Fortress in Melbourne CBD. So if you are from somewhere else in the country and you do decide you want to go, you'll have to get flights yourself and maybe a hotel or two, and yeah, do it all that way. Or you can just watch it online at 5 a.m., which is when it starts. So the 4 a.m. is the starting time for the in-person event at Fortress, but the actual stream is 5 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or 3 a.m. if you're in Perth. This is a bit of a weirder one for Ubisoft because they've delayed the Avatar game, which was expected to be later this year. They've not done anything with Rainbow Six Extraction, apart from a limited event that happened just a couple of weeks ago. They haven't even announced a new Just Dance for this year. I mean, that's happening, that'll be part of this showcase for sure, because, it's Just Dance and it's easy money for them. But, yeah, they've not really announced anything. We know The Crew 2 celebrating another year of content. For Honor celebrating another year. Rainbow Six Siege is celebrating another year. Far Cry 6 is sort of, fizzled out pretty quickly. People are sort of over with that series. So yeah, there's a whole lot that really don't know about what's going on with the company. Skull and Bones should be there. The game is now dated for November 8. So if that game doesn't show up during this event, that game should be, classed as dead in the water, and we move on. Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope for Switch will be there for sure. That game's out in October. That's their next, release of a new title. So that should definitely be in the showcase. But apart from Mario and Rabbids and Skull and Bones, there's no other games from Ubisoft that are dated for release. Which is not a great place for, one of the bigger publishers to be in. We know that the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake is still coming, but that game was, development of that was transferred back from the Mumbai and Pune studios to Montreal. So Montreal picked that back up again. The Settlers, which was supposed to release back in March, they've just started their technical alpha testing. So that game's still a ways off. There's just Ubisoft is just sort of struggling at the moment, I think. So it'll be very interesting to see what they do with regards to this going forward. Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of a weird situation. They've not really had that happen before. They're usually pretty on the ball with these sort of things. Right, moving along to later in September, we actually have details for Capcom. So Capcom are hosting a showcase, hosting two sort of back-to-back. The first one is an all-purpose showcase, and the second one is a Street Fighter 6 specific showcase. So these will be happening during the Tokyo Game Show week. Specifically, the general one will be taking place on September 15th, and it'll start at midnight if you're in Sydney, or 10 p.m. Start on September 15th at 10 p.m. if you're in Perth, September 16th if you're in Sydney at midnight. This is going to go for an hour. It'll be a pre-recorded showcase where they're just going to talk about all things Capcom. As part of their promotional images, they've been showing off Street Fighter, Mega Man, Battle Network Collection, Exo Primal, and Monster Hunter Rise Sunbreak. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of Street Fighter during it, purely because why put Street Fighter in when you're going to have another hour showcase for it? But we should see something for Resident Evil Village, the Gold Edition, which is coming out in October. We might see some more on the Resident Evil 4 remake. We may even see some VR stuff, because Capcom have been dipping their toes into VR here and there. Beyond that sort of stuff, though, they're pretty quiet across the board in terms of what they're publicly working on. We know a few of the games that have come out over the past 18 months or so were revealed via the leak that happened back at the start of 2020. So we've sort of caught up with what we knew from that. So everything sort of going forward is all very, very new. The Street Fighter showcase, though, will take place straight after this one. So if you're up at midnight to watch the Capcom General Showcase, at 1 a.m. the same time, so an hour after this general one starts, the Street Fighter 6 Showcase will be on. We don't know what's going to be in that. More than likely we'll get some character reveals, maybe some stages, but they'll probably do a deep dive into the technical aspects of that game. We know we just had 2 characters revealed back at EVO, so that only brings us up to, I think, like 5 or 6 characters in total for the game, so we're definitely due to have some more announced, but the actual specifics of it are just unknown at the moment. Tokyo Game Show is a bit of a weird one. So Square Enix did it last year and the year before, where they had subtitles on. That is a bad joke, Tabs. I like it, but it is bad. So yeah, the Tokyo Game Show stuff, they generally will have showcases on, but it's very rare that they're in English. Whereas when Microsoft or Nintendo or PlayStation or Ubisoft host theirs, they'll have subtitles in alternate languages. Nintendo will do complete audio dubs for Japan and America. But generally speaking, when Tokyo Game Show's on, the showcases are always just in Japanese, and it's been very, very rare if we get subtitles for them. The only thing that sort of I would say with the Capcom one is, unless you're a diehard Capcom fan, I probably wouldn't watch it, straight ahead. Mostly because they did a showcase back in June, and it was a mess. It did not run well. The stream buckled consistently, and all it was a video on a loop, and it looped for 4 times before they cancelled the stream. So, they've not had the greatest track record for it. And the showcases that generally happen during Tokyo Game Show are very... I say this not to be insensitive, but they're very Japanese. So if you've ever seen any sort of clips from like a Japanese variety show, it's usually a bunch of people sitting around tables or chairs, having conversations, bantering back and forth. That's what these showcases, tend to be like. So the Capcom one is an hour long, but we may only have, say, 15-20 minutes worth of game footage in it. That's even worse now, Cody. But yeah, so we should have more specifics coming into the event. Square Enix will most likely host their own showcases as well. They've done that in the past. Bandai Namco have also done things as well. We just sort of have to wait to see what they do. Moving on to something that's very, very weird, but that is that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is going to release its story mode early. Specifically, if you pre-order the digital version of Modern Warfare 2, you'll get access to the campaign a week before the game launches globally in full. So what this means is that if your pre-order is at EB Games or JB Hi-Fi, you'll get the full game on release day, both multiplayer and the single player. But if you pre-order it digitally, you'll get access to the campaign a whole week early. They did actually release a timeline here. So Call of Duty Next is happening in September. We still don't know the start time for that, but we know it's coming. Then there's the 2 beta weekends, basically leading off from Call of Duty Next into the first beta, then the crossplay beta the weekend after. So on October 20th, that'll be the release date for the digital pre-order for the campaign. But the physical version of the game, or if you just buy it, on the day of release, that's October 28th. That's when the full game becomes available. It's an interesting incentive, I suppose, to say, hey, if you pre-order the digital version, you can have, the campaign early. I don't know why they're doing it though. It makes very little sense to me, purely because I would imagine you wouldn't want people to undercut your game a week early. I know multiplayer is a very different thing, from the campaign, but if people are saying how bad the shooting is in the campaign, it's not going to instill confidence in your multiplayer, and vice versa. That happened with Halo. The Halo multiplayer dropped a couple of weeks before the campaign did, and that was done to try and build up hype for the campaign, but people weren't that enamored with what they were getting. So people went into the campaign very hesitant, about the experience they were going to get. It did turn out pretty well for them, but it's still a sort of thought that hey, maybe this isn't going to be great because so far what I've played of the other part of the game isn't that great. How that shakes out, who knows. The campaigns for Call of Duty have they've fallen to the shorter side of things over the past few years, so maybe that's what they want, get people in the campaign and out within the week, and then they can just dedicate their time to multiplayer. It'll be interesting to see if anyone else does this. We've had it done before where companies, one company will make a change and then they push forth and do more, for the rest of it. Who knows if other people are going to start doing the same thing. I wouldn't imagine so. I think this is a trial to see what happens, but we'll see what happens in the long run. Moving back to Switch, we actually got a release date for the Life is Strange collection. So late last year. So in the middle of last year, the Life is Strange games were announced to be coming to Switch. So True Colors, which is the third game in the series, was released last year, a few weeks after the other platforms. But when it was announced as coming to Switch, they announced that the remastered collection would also be coming to Switch day and date with the remastered collection on the other platforms. They delayed the collection last year to focus on True Colors, which makes sense, get the new game out, do the remasters later. When the release date for the remasters was announced back in January this year, they said the Switch version would not be releasing day and date with the others anymore, but it would come later in the year. We now actually know when. So Life is Strange, the Arcadia Bay Collection, which is the new name for it, that is set to release on September. Where's the date? 27th, there we go. There's a few other dates in the top there. So the 27th for the collection. It's, remastered visuals, audio, controls, the works. It's the same thing that's on the other platforms. It's just coming to Switch. It's nothing all that fancy. It is just, there to be had, I suppose. Something that is interesting for it, though, is it is getting a physical release, which is not something that we have had confirmed before. Previously, when it was announced as coming to Switch, it was a purely digital-only release. But, Square Enix have opted to make this a physical release as well on the same date. So, yeah, slight win there. final story that we're going to get into this week is the return of Wave Race. So earlier this week, Nintendo announced that Wave Race 64 would be coming to Switch as part of their Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack offerings, and that happened today. It's a bit weird that they've done it. Normally they will announce it, say on like a Thursday, that it's coming a week later and we get it the following week. This was the first time they've ever announced a game is coming out, at the start of the week and it hits at the end of the week. It's there. It's just Wave Race. It definitely plays like Wave Race. I did a couple of laps earlier. The waves are still cool, but it's definitely like a 90s game. It's got that 90s, awesome, tubular sort of, vibe to it. So, yeah. Interestingly, they did keep all the Kawasaki branding. So all the jet skis are Kawasaki, the signs everywhere. So that was a licensing deal that they did, for the game originally. And, they're still using it today. So that may be why it took a while. Maximum power indeed. Maybe why it took a while to come out here. Interestingly, in Japan, they had billboards for Fanta in their version of the game when that released. Those have been removed. So the game's been slightly modified to remove, those, banners from the game. We never got them in the West, so it's not really an issue for us. But yeah, it's sort of an interesting thing with the Switch Online stuff because usually sort of a week or 2 weeks after we get a 64 game, every other month, we get, a release of some Mega Drive content. So I can't remember the exact time we got the last wave of Mega Drive games, but we should hear something next week for the new wave, if it's that month. If not, it'll be, whatever happens in September with the September release. So, yeah. It probably was Fanta. It was probably, part of the branding agreement. Who knows? Who knows with these things? Right. Moving on to the release schedule for the next, 7 days. Obviously, it's very rare for a game to drop over the weekend. But I will say it is QuakeCon this weekend, so there is a chance we may see some news from Bethesda. Maybe not a release of a game, but, who knows? Who knows what they'll do? They did drop new maps and modes for Quake and Doom 1 and Doom 2 this morning, as well as dropping a whole bunch of games onto onto PC Game Pass. So that's there as well. Next week, we're starting off with a sort of a big thing. So we have Saints Row coming on August 23rd, so Tuesday. That is the reboot of the series. It's fun. It's Saints Row. There's not much more I can say about it. We'll also see the release of Midnight Fight Express on the 23rd, which is a game hitting PC, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. It's just a sort of a stylized brawler. It looks very cool. Kind of reminds me a bit of Sifu in terms of like camera angles and such, but other than that, it's not a whole lot of stuff. The 25th will be a big one. We will see the release of SD Gundam Battle Alliance on all platforms from Bandai Namco. There is a demo available for that game now, and all progress from the demo does carry across to the full release. And then on the same day, we'll see Soul Hackers 2 release for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, and that's from Atlas. So the Devil Summoner series started. Saints Row 2 was part of the Xbox Games with Gold lineup for this month. So bit of Saints Row happening this month across the board. But yeah, Soul Hackers 2 is a spin-off of the Devil Summoner series, which is also where Persona comes from, and Shin Megami Tensei. So they're all interconnected. It's this one big universe. The 26th, which is next Friday, we'll see the release of The Company Man, which is already out on PC and Switch. That's coming to PlayStation and Xbox. And then Pac-Man World Repack will be coming to all platforms as well. That is the remastered version of a 20-year-old game, which back 20 years ago was celebrating the 20th anniversary of Pac-Man. They remastered that game to celebrate the 40th anniversary of Pac-Man. Not exactly, you know, a simple thing to do, but I can understand why they've done it. It doesn't take them much to remaster a game. In terms of releases, though, there's, as I said, not a whole lot happening, purely because it's sort of the final quiet time before the big push starts in September. I mean, Madden came out today for the platforms. Saints Row's next week. They're big games. But, you know, Madden's cyclical. That happens, you know, every August, so that's like, you know, the anomaly there. But in terms of other releases, there's really not much to happen next week. The week after that, you know, we'll see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection, Destroy All Humans 2 remastered, a bunch of other things coming out as well. And then obviously we run into September. But that brings us to the end of the show. As I said, it was going to be a very short one this week, just because there's things happening behind the scenes here. Otherwise, we'll be back on Tuesday for more of our Games Bond, where we'll hopefully push through more of the Legends release. And then we'll be back next Friday for more Maxi-Geek Show. If you enjoyed, do give us a follow. Otherwise, we'll catch you when we're on next time. And until then, happy gaming.